I was the #1 player in the state of Florida, and I was on anxiety medication. Teammates didn't know, parents didn't know back home. I'm drafted to Orlando. I've been there for about a month. I meet this guy on an elevator, and he says to me, "I can tell you how to be great." And I said, "How?" And he said, "You have to know Jesus."
Wow.
Kind of from that moment, my life just kind of got turned upside down in terms of just these coincidences. It wasn't that I didn't take issue with what happened to George Floyd. I thought it was a moment to lead with love and say, hey, with everything that's happening with police brutality in our country, this is a moment to bring people together. I still believe that the gospel is the way to do that because it supersedes the you did me wrong because I've done wrong too. It puts everybody on the same playing field and allows us to look to God for forgiveness for ourselves, and that way we can forgive the people that we're around.
Jonathan Isaac, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me so much.
This is so fun to have you here. I think I talked to you a year ago about Unitis and you and what you're doing, and I was very excited, and I'm so excited to have you in studio.
Glad to be here. Glad to be in LA. This was kind of impromptu that we kind of just ran into each other and said, let's make it work. So I'm here.
Awesome. And you're wearing the Unitis
yes, ma'am.
shirt, looking
yes,
good.
Ma'am.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Unitis and your story because some people already know it and it's amazing, but a lot of people don't know your story. You're obviously this NBA star. You're an amazing, player. That's clear. But a lot of people don't know the kind of man behind the game that you play. So we'd love to start with, first of all, what kind of formed you as a kid growing up, and then what inspired your love for basketball?
Yeah. Starting with a kid, my upbringing was kind of rough in the sense that a lot of moving. Grew up in Bronx, New York. Loved my dad, my mom, a lot of kids, 4 brothers, 1 sister. Had a great time in New York. When I was 10, my parents split up. And so we went from Bronx, New York to Naples, Florida. So it was a complete culture shock, predominantly black communities, predominantly white community. And it was rough. It was rough fitting in, making friends. It's where I found basketball, but basketball pretty much became my safe haven because I was struggling to fit in and make friends. My nickname early on was Ethiopia. I was tall, I was skinny, I was
How
lanky,
tall are you?
I was awkward. I'm 6'11" now.
You can't see, guys, but Jonathan's very tall.
So it was a lot, and just adjusting and but basketball became that like safe haven of like, hey, when I play well, everybody loves me. The guys want me to be on the team. The girls want to hang out, and so it became this pursuit of just basketball, and kind of that was my life, and ended up being able to take it to being in the NBA.
Amazing. So what was it like? As a kid, did you ever think when you were starting to play basketball, when you moved to Naples, that you would end up in the NBA?
Not really.
Was that like a dream?
Yeah, no, it honestly wasn't. It was just something that I loved to do. I loved basketball. Again, I loved what it brought me, but I also just loved the game. And I just kind of dove into it. And like I said, it really did become that safe haven because of all the struggles that were around me, and struggling with anxiety, struggling with kind of that self-insecurity of fitting in and making friends was really tough. And so basketball became that thing where I was like, okay, I'm okay. And I just kind of rode it until next thing you know, I look up and, hey, you're going to be a top 10 draft pick. And I'm like, what?
Crazy.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it.
How do you mentally prepare yourself for games?
Now?
Or how has that changed? It's not like, has your mental preparation
It's
changed?
definitely changed. But much of, I'll tell you this, I was the #1 player in the state of Florida. And I was on anxiety medication at Florida State. Nobody knew. Teammates didn't know. Parents didn't know back home. It was something, again, that internal struggle that I was dealing with when it came to anxiety. So much of pregame was trying not to fall out and trying to kind of keep myself together. And I really struggled with it. And whereas now I still have those same feelings of fear or nervousness, but I've kind of learned how to combat them. And one of the ways is calling my pastor. And we pray before every single game, or when if he answers the phone or not. Sometimes he's busy, but I call him before the game, and he'll pray, and that kind of settles me, and get to it.
All right. So what inspired your faith? Have you always been practicing your Christian faith? How did you become a Christian? And I want to hear. We're going to get to the events of 2020.
Yeah, that
really put you on the map for a lot of people in a controversial way. But starting with that, what informs your faith?
Yeah. So. The story starts back home in Bronx, New York. My dad always had us in church, but it was just traditional for me. I didn't understand what a relationship with Christ was like. I didn't understand that it was tangible or something that you would walk out every day. It was just like, hey, we go to church because we're told to and we're supposed to, and we memorize the scriptures because we're supposed to. And then I was, again, dealing with these struggles, kind of behind the scenes. So much of it is just having it in my back pocket as tradition and trying to live this life of really just trying to be like the world. And so I, was smoking, I was drinking much of, high school and getting into college. And then I get drafted, still dealing with all this underlying anxiety. And I had panic attacks while I was at Florida State that not a lot of people knew about. And still was struggling when I got to the NBA, but I met a man on an elevator. And so I'm drafted to Orlando. I've been there for about a month. And I meet this guy on an elevator, and he says to me, "I can tell you how to be great." And I said, "How?" And he said, "You have to know Jesus."
Wow.
And I said, "Man, I know Jesus. I'm a Christian."
Did he know you were in the NBA?
No, he
You're
didn't.
just like, this is a really tall athlete
He
guy.
didn't, yeah. I said, "Man, I'm a Christian," but I wasn't living like that. And kind of from that moment, my life just kind of got turned upside down in terms of just these coincidences and God allowing my footsteps to be ordered. And I started to run into this guy, the same guy that I met in the elevator over and over again. And long story short, he's my pastor today.
Wow.
And one of the things that he was so adamant about teaching me once he learned more about me is the love of Christ and how Christ's love is unconditional. And we don't have to do anything or work towards his love. We just have to grow in our love for him out of his love for us. And so when I started to learn that, it started to water this little kid in me that was, stricken with anxiety and fear, that God knew me and God loved me. And he walked me through by watching him, what a relationship with Christ was like. And started to teach me the tools of fighting back against anxiety, fighting back against the lies of the enemy that plays in our heads. And that still does, something that I'm continually working on. But that was kind of the onset of, really my life changing, was meeting this guy, as my pastor today, Dr. Deron Hepburn. I've been going to the church in Orlando for 7 years now, Jump Ministries, and my life has never been the same.
So do you feel like since meeting this pastor and since having this deeper relationship with Christ, how has it affected your anxiety?
I've learned how to fight. And a lot of the things that I was thinking in my mind were attacks. And so I'd feel this fear. I'd be thinking, I can't do it. I'm going to lose. I'm going to miss out. Just these things that
negative
happen,
thoughts.
the negative thoughts that happen in our mind. And he taught me how to fight using the word of God. I'm more than a conqueror in Christ Jesus. The righteous are as bold as lions. I even started to say this stuff to myself during games, and I would see myself play better because I was constantly speaking the word and speaking truth over the fear, over the anxiety, and it would trumpet. And also taking these little stands of faith. One of them was speaking at the church for the first time after being there for some months. And doing it, I've had instances of just like teammates, being able to speak to them and just having these moments of having to stand out on faith that led up to this bigger moment of being able to do it. But he just walked me through what that looked like. And now when anxiety surfaces, when I got to speak, when I got to do a podcast, I speak the word of God to myself, and I choose to believe. I choose to believe the truth instead of believe the lie.
What's so incredible, I think, about you, besides obviously you're an amazing player, is that you are someone who is unafraid of speaking the truth and living by the truth in your public witness. And I know there's a lot of athletes who maybe in their private life, they have a faith. Maybe they go to church, which is beautiful. They're trying to have a relationship with God, which is beautiful, but it's hard for them to share that in their sport.
Right.
You had a moment, let's say it's an opportunity to do something that you believed, I think God was calling you to do. You felt it was the right thing to do in 2020. That was a super viral video. It was very controversial. Can you share about what happened and then why you chose to do what you did? A huge thank you to our partner, Hallow. Hallow is the #1 Christian prayer app in the world. It's been downloaded 10 million times. I love Hallow because they have sleep stories, they have the daily readings, they have scriptural commentary. You can listen to Holy Scripture. I also love that Hallow has kids content for your little ones. You can listen to stories, you can listen to prayers that are specifically designed for children, an amazing way to help you pray together as a family. We're busy, life gets crazy, but when you turn on Hallow, if you're doing the dishes or you're driving or you're just walking or commuting, it's amazing how Hallow can help us recenter our minds on Jesus Christ and his words. So make prayer a part of your daily routine and use Hallow to help you do it. You can download Hallow and get 3 months free using the link hallow.com/Lila or at the description in the bio. Get 3 months free of Hallow using the link hallow.com/Lila.
Yeah. So, everybody remembers the hysteria and the tragic death of George Floyd and how that all played out. and I'm in the NBA, and it turned into a cultural movement. Black Lives Matter took off, and it was everywhere, and you couldn't avoid it in any way. And so we're in the NBA, and we're getting ready because of COVID to play in the bubble, which was the NBA's attempt to keep the season going while COVID was running rampant. And so we get into the bubble, and people are talking about kneeling because the team in front of us had already knelt, and we're going to play the next day. And so team in front of us kneels, but the backtrack.
And why were they kneeling? Just for
they were kneeling in solidarity with with Black Lives Matter, the movement and the organization, and they're going to wear Black Lives Matter T-shirts. So to backtrack a little bit, when kind of everything at first popped off, and the riots were taking place and things were happening, I remember my pastor preaching about just it was something that he tied to the moment, but he was preaching about Christ when Peter lunges forward and cuts off the guy's ear to protect Christ. And Christ said, if you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword. And he took that to mean if we approach this moment in the same way we always have, which is with anger and retaliation, we'll get the same result. And so that spoke to me in a way of, if I ever have the opportunity to speak to this, I didn't know about the bubble yet, I would try my best to lead with love and grace, and understand that I fall short of the gospel, the glory of God as well. And I'm going to offer the gospel as the answer. And so fast forward, now we find ourselves in the bubble. I've had some small conversations with people, or small conversations around the Black Lives Matter movement, where I would interject and say, hey, where is there room for grace and for love and forgiveness and to lead with love? And it was like, hey, this isn't what we're doing right now. This isn't that type of moment. And so I kind of just stayed away from the movement. I didn't think that the rhetoric or the tone was beneficial for change or growth. And so we get into this bubble moment, and a team knelt before us. So we have this team meeting, and we kind of got to make a decision as a team. And everybody's like, the decision's already made. We have to kneel because the team knelt before us. If we don't kneel, then it looks like we're going against them. And everybody just chopped it up to that. And
what team was it before that kneeled? Do you remember?
I'd have to guess. I really don't. I want to say the Denver Nuggets or something like that.
Like a lot of NBA teams at the time this was a trend that was starting.
Yes.
Don't stand for the national anthem in protest.
Exactly.
Of police brutality was the message that they were trying to send. Right? Let's kneel. We have to kneel.
Exactly. And so so during the meeting, one of my teammates turned towards me and says, "Yo, Jonathan, what are you gonna do?" And it was like this. You could hear a pin drop, and I'm just like, fellas, I'm not gonna kneel. And I'm not going to wear a Black Lives Matter T-shirt. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And, chaos erupts, and everybody's like, oh, here we go. Like, this craziness and why? And I was just like, look, I can't throw stones from a glass house. I've fallen short of the glory of God, and I want to step into this moment and offer the gospel, which I believe is the answer for not just racism, but all the things that plague our society. And, Jesus said if he be lifted up, he would draw men to himself. And I want that to be the message that I share in this moment of divisiveness and chaos. And so, it happens. I call my pastor on the phone that night. I call Doc, and I'm like, hey, this is happening. I don't think you understand how crazy this is going to be. Like, I'm going to be a sellout. I'm going to be, because I'm Black, this is going to be some craziness. And I hadn't signed my contract extension yet. That was coming up in the summer. And a lot was going on. And he just said to me, he said, you cannot stand for God and God not stand for you. And it was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. After that, I'll do it. Leading up to that next day, I went out there and I just tried my best. I was praying under my breath, God, like, let this truly be about you and not about, me being in any type of spotlight or anything like that. And it happened.
And then what happened?
Yeah, so I was met with, what I expected. I was met with a ton of, negativity about and kind of scrutiny about why I did what I did. And I tried my best to explain that it was about the gospel, and it was about platforming what could truly be a real solution in the way that wearing a T-shirt and kneeling couldn't, and that it could bring real change and unity, And so that was that. And I was met with that negativity, but at the same time, I was met with millions of people who understood what it was that I was trying to convey. And they understood, and they were there for me. I got a ton of letters in the mail, and and that was just that was the start of everything that you see right now in terms of there being a public stand for Christ. And it's what was already happening behind the scenes in my life. And I just used that moment to say, hey, God, whatever it is that I feel like you want me to do, I'm going to try my best to do. And it felt like he was leading me in that direction.
What was it about the national anthem? I mean, this is obviously for all of us. The national anthem isn't just for one color or one creed or one race. You know, it's supposed to unite all of us to be Americans and to share in this American project of fighting for, you know, human flourishing and rights. And so, you know, I think a lot of people were upset about athletes kneeling because they thought, like you used the word throwing stones, they're throwing stones. You know, they have all this privilege and this is our national anthem. This is not the time or the place. And then other people saying, well, this is their way to raise awareness and show solidarity for those who are the victims of police brutality. Right. I know you're talking about the power of the gospel. Can you share a little bit more? I'm sure I know you've had this conversation many times, especially with your teammates, but like, what was it about the kneeling during the national anthem that you felt this is not the right thing? The very best way to start your day is with a steaming cup of coffee, but not just any coffee. You're going to want to drink 7 Weeks coffee because it is the most delicious coffee that you will ever taste. If you go to 7weekscoffee.com today, you'll see all the different blends and roasts that they have, but this is low acid, gourmet, ethically sourced, small batch roasted, delicious coffee. It's what I love to drink in the morning, and you're going to love it too. What I love about 7weekscoffee.com is not only is it ethically sourced and the best beans, they use the top 1% to 2% of all beans in the world to make their coffee, but 7 Weeks Coffee also gives a full 10% of all their revenue directly back to the pro-life movement, to pregnancy resource centers. In fact, they are almost hitting the milestone with your help of $500,000, $500,000 donated directly to help moms and babies in need. You can be a part of this by going to 7weekscoffee.com today. You can pick your favorite subscription of your favorite blend of coffee. My favorite is the medium Ethiopian roast. And if you become a member of the Heartbeat Club, meaning you're going to get coffee delivered to your door every single month, you'll get a full 15% off your order. And if you use the code Lila at checkout, you'll get another 10% off your order for a full 25% off your first order of 7 Weeks Coffee. So go right now to 7weekscoffee.com, pick your favorite coffee blend, put in your order, use the code Lila at checkout for up to 25% off your first order. Know that you're not only drinking a delicious cup of steaming hot coffee in the morning, but you are supporting the pro-life movement, giving back 10% of everything that you order to help moms and babies in need. Go check them out today. That's 7weekscoffee.com. You are going to love this coffee and you're going to love this mission just as much.
Right. Exactly that. It wasn't that I didn't see an issue. It wasn't that I didn't take issue with what happened to George Floyd or, any of the police brutality that anybody has experienced in this country, regardless if you're, black, white, and different. Not that I didn't believe that was the solution in terms of it had the ability or the tone and the rhetoric of that time to bring people together instead of further divide people. And I thought that was a large part of what it did, because you're talking about the people who felt like the people who are fighting for inclusion, the people who have fought in the past, what America has been to, all people and bringing people together. What I'm afforded today is because of how amazing and how far America has come. And so I had that in mind in terms of, I love the country that I play for. I'm grateful that I'm here and I'm able to have a career playing basketball. And I didn't think that taking a stand in that way would bring about what was necessary, which was unity. I thought it was a moment to lead with love and say, hey, with everything that's happening with police brutality in our country, this is a moment to bring people together. And I thought, I still believe that the gospel is the way to do that because it supersedes the you did me wrong because I've done wrong too. It puts everybody on the same playing field and allows us to look to God for forgiveness for ourselves. And that way we can forgive the people that we're around.
What was the biggest pushback that you got after you stood instead of kneeled? Well,
just that, I'm black. I'm a black man in America, and to not have stood in solidarity, was to say that I don't care about black people or don't care about my own blackness. Like the first question that I was asked afterwards by the media was, do you even believe that Black Lives Matter? And so that was the thing. It became this.
It's like a purity test.
Right, exactly. If you don't kneel, if you don't wear this T-shirt, then you don't believe that Black Lives Matter. And I think that's just, one, it's just wrong. I'm black. much of the work that I've done in the community has been predominantly for, Black people. And so it just wasn't the truth. And so that was hard for me because, I still, I love my culture. I love, where I grew up and what I'm a part of. So it was difficult to walk through that. But at the same time, a part of finding identity in Christ is saying my identity isn't in my color anymore. My identity is in the one who's, bought and paid for me to live the life that I'm living today and ultimately eternity. And so it was difficult, but I walked through it.
Were you worried about your contract not getting renewed?
I was.
What happened with that?
Yeah, because of just how crazy the time was, and understanding the pressure that it was being applied to businesses, to organizations, to the NBA had a large amount of pressure applied to them because of what happened, and we had Black Lives Matter on the court. Many guys wore it on the back of their jerseys at the time. So just understanding that, hey, if I do this, regardless if the team agrees with me or not, or if they're indifferent about it, they're going to receive pressure to say, hey, because Jonathan did this, he may not be, we may not want to keep him here. We may lose sales, whatever. But I think what happened was the opposite. Like my jersey sold second highest in the NBA after that happened. And the team, although they put out their own statement, they said that they supported me and understood where I was coming from. And, I was able to sign a contract extension.
Was there a time in your life before this moment in 2020 where you had stood up for the truth or for your faith in a way, but you maybe felt a lot of anxiety going into it?
Oh my gosh.
Something that kind of prepared you for that moment?
So many times. And I'm trying to think of a good one. So there's one that's in the book. I can tell the story because it's in the book already. After I decided to stand, my pastor comes over one day and he's like, you need to write a book. And I said, okay, how, why? And he said, people know your stand, but they don't know your story. And so the book is called Why I Stand. And we wrote that. And inside of the book is a story about me being a rookie in the NBA. You come into a league, they have like rookie hazing. It's just a part of the way things work. My job, one of my tasks was to, if somebody needed condoms or something like that, I'm going to go to the drugstore or the 7-Eleven and go get some and drop it off or whatever. It's just a part of the culture and what I was doing at the time. And so at first I didn't care. Like, hey, I don't mind at all. But as I started to give my life to Christ, it was something that became harder and harder for me to do. And so I went to my same pastor and said, hey, this is the situation. And he says, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't want to do it anymore. And he says, well, you need to go and talk to that player and share your convictions. And I'm like, what? You want me to do what? And so I did. So I by the grace of God, mustered up the strength and said, hey, I've been really trying to do right by God lately. That was how I phrased it. I've been really trying to do right by God lately. And because of that, I can't do this anymore. And, they were laughing, man, don't even worry about it, man. It's not that deep. And that was it. But I tried my best to convey to him, like, look, I don't think I'm better than you. Like, I'm not, judging you for anything. Like, this is just what God is doing in my life and in my heart. And I appreciate the fact that you're cool with kind of relieving me of these duties.
But it sounds like that was just so out of the norm. It's like you're the Christian guy now.
Exactly.
But those little choices leading up to the choice to stand instead of to kneel prepared you. It sounds
exactly.
like.
Exactly. It was my training for training for reigning. And so I there's several of those moments that gave me, a bit of courage and also helped me to recognize that God was really real and that I started to see me change, like my own self change, and to where if I was asked to do something like that again, I wouldn't have to go through the same level of anxiety as I did the first time. And so these little things led up to, hey, this moment back here is going to take a lot of courage, but I'm going to build you up in the background for you to get there.
You and I talked last year about your passion for life. And this is, again, another, unfortunately, it's still controversial. I believe there's going to be a day when abortion is not controversial because everyone says it's wrong and they're just all against it.
In the name of Jesus.
In the name of Jesus. We're not there yet, but I think there's progress. But anyways, we were talking about your passion for life and for the unborn and the sanctity of every one of God's children. So I'd love to hear what informed your view there and what gives you the sense of calling to speak about it and be willing to be a voice for those that are not born yet, and are defenseless?
Yeah. Honestly, for me, it's pretty simple. It was something that I didn't care about. It's something that's obviously culturally normal. It's okay. In transparency, when I was in high school, I had some girl take, Plan B or something like that. And so it was never something for me that was a, importance or a touchy subject. It was just, hey, it's culturally appropriate. The only thing that has changed in my life is the fact that I gave my life to Christ. And now through looking through that lens, I understand the significance of life. I understand the significance of every single child is made in the likeness and image of God. And because of that, life isn't dispensable. And so that to me, that's like the full stop of just like, hey, my mind has been renewed, my life has been transformed. And because of that, I recognize that, that God is the author of life and I don't have the authority, to take it. And so that to me, that's where, that's why I'm pro-life. And I think the stance to speak on it, or the courage to speak on it, because it is so, the media, it is sensational and sensationalized and political to a large degree now. It's just, God has given me a platform. And if I'm going to be authentic to who I am and who God has grown me to be, then I got to be willing to stand up and speak about, what's important to me, and being pro-life is one of those things.
How do your teammates see you and your views?
I think
have any of them been influenced by you too?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I think that my teammates have a level of respect for me because they recognize that it's something that's real. To the best of my ability and by the grace of God, I'm not, living one way in front of them and then trying to, or coming on this platform and then living a different life in front of them. I'm trying my best to live for Christ. I fall short just like anybody else, but I try my best to. And so they see the sincerity of, hey, this is who Jonathan is and this is who he's trying to be. And we respect that. So regardless if they disagree with me or they're in my shoes, the only thing that's different from, maybe me being pro-life and them not being is the fact that my mind was renewed and my mind was enlightened and my heart was changed. And so, to them, they're doing the same things, or to anybody, they're doing the same thing that I was doing, which was just going according to cultural norms. It's not that they're evil people or that they have a desire to take life or anything like that. For a lot of people, it's just okay. It's just normal. It's just what you do. And so it's not until we encounter, the living God that we have that understanding.
I'm so excited to tell you about our sponsor, GoodRanchers.com. GoodRanchers.com is American meat delivered. Did you know that up to 90% of the meat in your grocery store is not from the United States? It might say product of the USA on it, but it's actually not from American ranchers. It's imported in. What I love about GoodRanchers.com is it's 100% sourced from the United States. It's sourced from American ranchers, usually small businesses, and their standards are great. So as you guys know, there is a presidential election coming up in just a few weeks here, and we make our voices heard at the ballot box. Well, what I love about what GoodRanchers.com is doing is they are letting you make your voice heard about supporting American ranchers and getting the best-in-class product of meat, fish, poultry, all of it, pork to your door. So you can vote with your dollar. In honor of the presidential election, Good Ranchers has a special right now where if you order a subscription box, you get 4 years free of your choice of add-ons between ground beef, chicken breast, those are my favorite, salmon, or bacon. And if you use the code Lila at checkout, you'll get an additional $25 off your order plus free and fast shipping. So go to goodranchers.com today and put in your order and enjoy American meat delivered. You had your first baby last year.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear about your wife, your love story, and how that has just affected your faith and even your pro-life stance, being a dad now.
Yeah. So my wife is Takita. I met her at the church that I started going to in Orlando.
This pastor, he does everything for you.
Yeah. He's revolutionized my life. And Takita's awesome. She's an amazing wife and mother. And our baby girl Naomi is a year old, and she's doing awesome. She's huge. she's really tall for her age, and it's just been great. It's been great to kind of see the parallel between parents and children and God and us, and how we have to be taught everything and we don't understand and we don't know, and we're trying our best to convey to them what's right and what's wrong, and it's the same thing that God is trying to do with us. And we would call them hard-headed when they don't get it, but we won't call ourselves hard-headed when we don't get it with God. And so So yeah, it's been awesome. It's helped me to fight harder and to try to be better in a lot of different ways. And specifically on the, even on that, you're talking about, being pro-life. It's to see that process of life going through its stages and recognizing that from the moment, obviously we talk about conception, but as you see that progression of life, it's like you don't think that, okay, now it's not and now it is. It's like, no, this through the whole time you're speaking to the baby in the belly. It's like you're rubbing the belly. It's just like it's all beautiful and it's all important. And so it's helped me to see the progression of life and how beautiful it is.
What's been the most surprising thing about getting married and having your first baby?
I say just how fulfilling it is. It's like, when you're single and you're doing your thing like me and you're living your life, you think that you would be losing something by going in that direction. But when you do it properly and you do it right and you allow God to be in the middle and to form a union and to grow in him, it really is fulfilling to come home and to, have the baby go, hi daddy. It's just awesome. And your wife is there, your family's connected and you're growing.
Does she come to all your games?
Well, she was very, 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 very little.
That's true.
So she's a year old now. So I'm sure this upcoming season she'll be at a lot of them.
She'll be on the front, right on the edge of the court, watching Dad. Tell me about Unitis. You launched Unitis, your company, around the time Naomi was born.
Yep.
Just a year ago, and it's already doing big things. What's the vision? What is Unitis? What's the vision behind it?
So Unitis is a Christian sports and apparel company, and the way it got started was my pastor, same guy. And so back in 2020, after I decided to stand in the bubble, I got injured, and so I tore my ACL. And
This was after you stood in 2020.
Yeah, the game after.
Whoa.
And so I was signed to Nike at that time, and obviously, tearing ACL is a big deal, and I didn't re-sign with them. And I went to my pastor and was like, hey, this is a situation. I don't have a shoe brand. I'll probably try to just in talking conversation, I'll probably try to go with Adidas when I get back to the court and everything. And he was like, why don't you start your own? And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Players don't do that. And we kind of just went on that road, and it happened. And we go down the road, and I'm talking, and God is just connecting these dots and bringing up, all these different people that have connected to the vision and have helped build it. And so now Unitis is a real thing. We launched the Judah 1, which was the first NBA signature sneaker with visible Bible verses on the outside that I wore on the court last season.
Why Judah 1?
Judah's my middle name. And so just trying to decide what we're going to call the shoe, I'm like, Judah. And Judah is really important to me, just as I've came into it, like coming into faith and understanding, man, God, it wasn't an accident that you named me Judah, and that I'm doing what I'm doing, or I am the way that I am. And so we just took off, and people have really enjoyed it, and now the brand is just growing. We went from the Judah 1s to the Judah 1 low tops, and now heading into October, we're going to drop a completely new shoe that's outside of the realm of basketball. It's kind of more heavily in just the open marketplace of like a trainer or a walk around everyday shoe called the Fortra. And I'm really, really proud of that and excited to bring that out. I know I talked with you about at some point in time, we'll possibly do a life colorway, which I think would be really, really awesome to do it in conjunction with live action. But yeah, it's been awesome. And I think the vision is to develop a global brand centered around honoring God. That's just it, honoring God. And, we can support and give our money to brands and companies that share our values and share what it is that we believe. And so to have something like Unitis, the stories that have already come out of it of like people saying, I can go to a brand and wear the word of God on my feet or on my clothes and, be encouraged about who I am and what it is that I believe. That's what we want to instill in everybody, and to understand that when you do it, you're honoring God in the process. And so the verse that's actually on the fortress is 1 Samuel 2:30 that says, he who honors God, God will honor.
Amazing. What are your personal goals for this next season?
Personal goals, I want to win. Like, we I know everybody wants to win, but we went to a game 7 in the first round and we lost this past season. But I really feel like this upcoming season is going to be our best year yet, or the best year of my career, and our team will take another step in the right direction. So excited for that. Excited to shoot for being Defensive Player of the Year and going for it.
And what's your lifelong goal? If you could sort of capture your life dream, you're already living the dream, so many people's dream with what you're doing, but what would that look like, or what is that?
I'd say my lifelong goal is to be impactful, to be impactful for Christ, but I want to be of value to people in their lives. And so in creating Unitis, I feel like it is a part of the legacy of instilling value in other people to where they're growing from it, they're gaining from it, they're gleaning from it, and they're growing closer to God because of it. And so, when I'm dead and gone, if there are tangible ways through the stand, through speaking, through sharing, through being open about what it is that I believe, like a pro-life stance, people are gaining from it. And, my life is not just about myself.
Amazing. Where can people find Unitis and keep following you?
Thank you so much. It is on weareunitis.com. So we are UNITUS.com. And, same things for Instagram, Twitter. And yeah.
Thanks for coming on. So fun to meet you in person and talk to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Keep it up. It's amazing.
Yes, ma'am.
A huge thank you to our partner, EWTN. EWTN is the world's leading Catholic network, reaching millions with the truth about the faith, entertainment, and news. Check them out at EWTN.com.